Welcome, my constant reader friends. I'm Tad, and this is Tad Reads Books and Stuff. All right, like normal, we're going to go through what I've been reading, a little update. It's not huge this time. Real quick, I am almost finished with The Cosmic Puppets, as you know, by Philip K. Dick. I wanted to read this last month, didn't get it done, and I'm almost done. I probably just should have taken an hour or two and just finish this up today. I'll probably finish it later today, but we'll talk about that when that gets done. Philip K. Dick, The Cosmic Puppets. Also, I'm reading this beautiful folio edition, J.R.R. Tolkien, The Silmarillion. I am so excited more to be reading this specific book than actually The Silmarillion, just because it is so beautiful. I read The Silmarillion years and years ago. I'm just rereading it to get prepared for the new Lord of the Rings TV series that's coming out. I'm only about 100 pages in. This book has look at this. So it gives you family trees in the back, several of them. There's a huge index. Wow. And it keeps going. This is the index. The appendix, there's a cool appendix. He developed pretty much his own language. Spent years and years and years developing this. Oh, look at that. I don't know if I showed you all this when I did my Folio Society book. But look at this. I don't know if I can get it all in the screen for you. This is a really cool map. You know I love my maps and my books. But that's in the back here of the book. So, anyways, only about 100 pages in. We'll talk about this when we finish it. So that's really all I've been reading this month so far. I haven't really started Caliban's War yet in The Expanse or Billy Summers by Stephen King. But I talked about this before. I did finish last month now, If It Bleeds. So what I'd like to do is talk about If It Bleeds. Now, let's get the numbers out of the way. This was published in April of 2020. This version I have has 436 pages. That's counting the author's notes. I like author's notes. I read them all. I don't know if y'all do. Give me a comment. Let me know if it's just something that you skip, or do you skip the introductions? I read it all. I enjoy having all the information about a book when I read it. Anyways, and of course it's Stephen King, so I'm going to love reading anything that he writes. Let's start with this. So yeah, 436 pages in this book, this version that I have, hardback, first edition. It's got a 4.01 on Goodreads. Let's be honest, there's probably a million videos out there about this book because it was published in 2020. I'm only reading it in July of 2022. I know that's sad, but there was a thing called a pandemic in there, and I was sick for a while. We'll go into that later, someday, maybe. But I just didn't get to it. I bought it when it first came out. I got the first edition, but I just didn't read it. So, what is it? It's four, I don't know if I want to call them novelettes, novellas, stories, long-form short stories, whatever. It's a compilation of 4 stories. And he's done that several times, as you all know, 4 Past Midnight and other one. We're going to talk about those in a bit. But anyway, so let's just get going. I'm rambling. I know. Shoot me. First one, the first book in the first short story. All right, it's goddamn Tad. It's 88 pages. Is that, I don't know, is that considered a novella? No, whatever. So the first story is called Mr. Harrigan's Phone. I'm not going to give a lot away as I discuss these stories. This is the first one, the opener. It's really, tech as horror. As it alludes to it, there's a phone involved. So this basically follows this young boy named Craig, living with his father. He befriends this Mr. Harrigan, who is an older gentleman, and he goes over and he helps clean his house and things like that, and after school for some extra money. Mr. Harrigan likes to give him these lottery tickets on special holidays, like Valentine's Day and Christmas and things like that. And one day he gets one of these scratch-off lottery tickets, and he wins $3,000. He goes to Mr. Harrigan. Mr. Harrigan helps him think about investing, because Mr. Harrigan is actually this multi-millionaire, big CEO of these amazing several companies, always on the stock market, things like that. All right, so Craig befriends him. Mr. Harrigan helps him with this lottery, and Craig, as a thank you, gives Mr. Harrigan a new cell phone. This guy has no idea about this technology, doesn't like it, loves getting, his newspapers in the morning where he can follow the stock market and things like that. Of course, Craig shows him how to utilize the phone to get basically up to the minute information about stocks, rather than him getting it, in the newspaper a day later. And of course, that changes Mr. Harrigan's ideas of technology. But suffice it to say, Mr. Harrigan eventually dies, and then we go from there. I'm not going to give it away. I think I'm going to wait till the end, and I'll give you how I ranked them as the 4 in this novel. So that's that story. That was the first story, 88 pages. Then we go on to, it's called The Life of Chuck. Now this one, if you haven't read this book yet, like I said, there's probably a million videos out there on this book. This is only 64 pages. It's the shortest story in this book. My words are not working today. Anyways, Life of Chuck. This is a cool story. At first, I didn't know how I felt about this story. It's only 64 pages. It's a world-ending story told backwards. Interesting. Unique, maybe. I mean, to a point. Other people have done it, of course. But it's one of those short stories, and I sometimes like these, where you don't really have a definitive ending to begin with. You read from the beginning, you go through the story, and then it's just kind of a short story that just kind of drops off at the end and lets you, as the reader, come up with an ending of your own, or wonder what happened next. But we do know right from the beginning that this is a world-ending event. Everything's going downhill quickly. But you keep seeing ads about this guy Chuck. Thanks for 39 wonderful years, Chuck. It's like a retirement advertisement, and it's on now. It's all over the place. Who is Chuck, and how does he play a part in this story? Well, that's how the story unfolds. It goes backwards through Chuck and these different vignettes, these different scenes that happen to him in backwards order. It's not, how do I explain it? This story is nothing really special, mind-blowing, really, but it kind of is. I don't know. After I first read this story, I was like, no big deal. I mean, it's kind of cool. I kind of like how he did the backward thing, but it wasn't, anything, like I said, mind-blowing. But this damn story keeps coming back in my brain and I keep thinking about it, and I'm liking it more and more as I think about it. So give it a chance. I have seen and read other reviews that this is one of the least liked of these short stories in this book. I don't know. Let's see. At the end, I'll tell you how I rank them. Next, the third story in this book, of course, is the title, If It Bleeds. And this is, let me tell you, this is the longest one. This definitely is, I would say, a novella. This is 190 pages in this book. And it is a direct sequel to The Outsider. Yes, this is a Holly Gibney story. A lot of, I guess if you look, it says Holly Gibney #2, if you look it up. So how it reflects back on The Outsider, because this horrible terrorist type attack happens in a school, and the school gets blown up. There's a reporter there on the scene and giving his report, television reporter, news reporter, and Holly sees this news report, and for some reason it just starts nagging at her. She's not even in the area. The explosion is in Pennsylvania, but it just nags at her. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. So she starts. You know how Holly is. She's a little OCD. She's a little different. She can't get it out of her brain, so she keeps watching this video of this, news guy giving reports, and things are starting to bug her about it. And then finally she sees it. Now she's in, right? There's something going on. So she starts investigating this dude. It reminds her so much of what she just went through recently in The Outsider. If you haven't read The Outsider, do you have to read The Outsider to read this and enjoy this? Yeah, I kind of think you do. There are references that you're really kind of not going to really understand if you haven't read The Outsider. This is just, like I said, a sequel to The Outsider directly. And it's a Holly Gibney story. I personally love Holly Gibney. I love the Outsider. I love the trilogy before, the Mr. Mercedes trilogy, and I've even liked all the television adaptations of those two. So I'm a fan. Sorry, I'm not saying that series and everything is in my top 10, but it definitely isn't in my bottom. It's just solid, I think, good storytelling and interesting enough. I read the Mr. Mercedes trilogy prior to doing this BookTube channel, so maybe someday I'll talk about that trilogy. There are some good things, there are some bad things, of course, but overall I think it works really well. Anyways, Holly Gibney story. But she eventually goes to Pennsylvania, and then the crap begins, and I think it's pretty interesting. So love the story. Next, last one, number 4, is Rat. As you see in the cover, yeah, it looks like a cat, but really if you get close to it, there's a rat face in here. And what is it? So it's basically a short story. It's 87 pages, and it's one of Stephen King's normal tropes that he does. It's about a writer, and the writer, I saw somebody say that the writer had writer's block. He doesn't really have writer's block. He has writer's, there's probably a word for it. Let me tell you, I kind of did it. For years, I was talking about books, of course. This one sucks, this one's okay, blah, blah, blah. And I've had people over the years say, well, then why don't you write a book? I've written, almost 2 books. One is almost done. a bunch of short stories, but I see what happens. I've started and stopped many more books, and I just get too involved in the minutia of the book and trying to make sure everything is perfect at first. Then I started doing, I don't know why I'm rambling so much, I'm sorry, but I started doing Nanowrimo. I don't know if y'all know about this, but it's National Write a Novel Month in November, and I started doing that. And one of the things when I was, getting involved in that is people were said, punk write it, just like a punk rock song, just write it, then worry about editing it and things like that. And that's how I finished my first novel. I just wrote it, and now I've got to edit it, and I've been editing it for years and years, so you probably never see it. Anyways, that's kind of what he does. He gets so locked into the minutia of which word should I use in this sentence that he goes bonkers, he goes crazy, and he can't finish a novel. So this time he's going to go away. He's got this idea for a novel, and he's going to go to a cabin and finish it. Well, he gets there, and it's going great for a short period of time, just like all the other ones. And then he starts going crazy, and he's starting to get into that problem again where he can't even finish a sentence. Well, lo and behold, a storm comes along, locks him in there, blah, blah, blah. He sees a rat. He brings the rat, saves the rat. It's like freezing outside. He brings it inside, puts it by the fire, he wakes up, and it becomes a talking rat. But what is it? It's really Stephen King's version of The Monkey's Paw. If you're familiar with Monkey's Paw, a lot of us are, because we were forced to read it in high school. It's a book by W. Jacobs. It was published originally in 1902. So this is an old story, and pretty much what is it? It's the Monkey's Paw grants you 3 wishes. And of course, you all know what happens. It's basically a story. Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And how you get it may destroy you. So pretty much that's what this story is. The rat talks and tells him, I can help you finish the book, basically, but there'll be a price. And that's the story. So what do I think? Well, overall, after reading Fire and Blood, I needed a palate cleanser. This was awesome for that purpose. Is it his greatest novellas, short stories of all time? That's yet to be seen. Some people feel that some of these may go down as some of his best. I don't know, but let me rank them for you. First off, I would say definitely, just because I'm a huge fan, If It Bleeds was the best story. Other people give you other opinions, that's fine. I feel like it's the best story in the book. It drives the book. Of course, that's why they wrote, the titles If It Bleeds. Second, this is tough because, like I said, the life of Chuck is staying with me. I think that overall, especially if you're a Stephen King fan and like a little bit more horror, I think Mr. Harrigan's Phone is the next best story in this novel. But the life of Chuck is right there, right third. So 2 and 3, Life of Chuck, Mr. Harrigan's Phone. A lot of people hated Life of Chuck, maybe because it's written backwards, and maybe because it really doesn't have an ending. It leaves the ending up to you. But it's staying with me, so I'm going to give it props for that, because he did something right for it to do that. And then last, unfortunately, I'm going to say Rat. A lot of people say Rat's their favorite. It's just so overused. He always writes about authors. I know they say write what you know about, whatever, that's fine. But it basically is The Monkey's Paw, and there are literally hundreds of stories written about. I mean, it's a Faustian type, and we go back to Faust, right? it's making a deal with the devil, or you know, things like that. Charlie Daniels, you know. So it's not my favorite out of the four. They're all good. They're all decent. I really liked the book. Most people are giving it good. You know, it's 4.01 on Goodreads if you give that any credit. But that's If It Bleeds. Now, this has given me an idea. I'm sure this video is running really long. I'm sorry. I'm rambling today again. But have this idea now where I would like to go back through and read all of his books that are, you know, short story compilations and novellas, even back to the Bachman books and through, you know, everything's Skeleton Key, 4 Past Midnight. I mean, through them all. And I'm thinking about doing them in order that they're written. And for my count, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I've gone through my books and I have them all. I believe there's 12 of them, including If It Bleeds. So you could do one a month. And I would like to do that. And then when I'm done, I actually would like to go through and rate all of his short stories and novellas. I didn't include his short stories and novellas in my top 10 or my bottom 5 novels by him. Because I kind of want to do them all separately. Some people will, when they give their top 10, throw in a short story. But I'm going to try to do just that. Now, my question to you all, if you stayed with me and kept watching this video, just give me a comment. Should I start it like right away? Or I'm kind of thinking of starting it at the beginning of the year, in January. Basically because I still haven't read all of his novels. I've got, in my count, it's 9 or 10. Well, I'm reading Billy Summers this month. So about 9 or 10 actual novels of Stephen King that I haven't read yet. I've read many, many, many. But, so I kind of think I want to try to finish those 10. And of course, Fairy Tales is coming out. I'm going to want to read that before I start this year-long journey of reading all of his short stories and novellas. So y'all give me, you know, if you want me to start now, I can. But I'm also reading, you know, the Expanse novels. So there's 9 months of that. So I don't know if I want to do that or not. Start that right now. But give me your ideas. That's fine. I'd love to do it, and I'm going to do it. Just depends on when I'm going to start. All right, guys. Thank you if you stayed around for the whole video. I love everybody. The comments, of course, are coming and coming. I love them. I'm getting more subscribers. It's great. I really appreciate it. So, anyways, if you find any value in what I'm doing here, any entertainment, please like, subscribe to my video channel. I would love it. All right, y'all. Peace out.